Deadpool and Wolverine breaks $1 billion as studios lose $15 billion. From Deadline, Paramount takes $5.98 billion write-down at cable networks ahead of Skydance deal and latest big media damage from linear TV. That's a $6 billion loss. It's not a loss like, oh man, we had a bad month, we lost $6 billion. It's when they look at their assets and they say, these things are not worth what we've been claiming they've been worth for our financial purposes, for our filings. Cable networks are losing a lot of value right now. People don't spend the time on cable TV that they used to spend. And that industry is completely falling apart. So Paramount had to announce that, the assets we have are worth about $6 billion less than we said they were. They weren't necessarily lying about them. The industry changed, so they had to reevaluate it and say, oh, okay, these assets aren't worth what they were just yesterday. And the same kind of massive loss came for Warner Brothers Discovery. Warner Brothers tanks after massive impairment charge. Wall Street says unlikely things can get worse. It's good to know that things can't get worse, and their stock fell as much as 12%. But they had to take a $9.1 billion loss last week related to their TV networks after they lost their deal with the NBA. But at least Deadpool's having a good week. From The Hollywood Reporter, box office milestone. Deadpool and Wolverine crosses $1 billion globally on way to becoming top R-rated pick of all time. From The Hollywood Reporter, box office milestone, Deadpool and Wolverine cross $1 billion globally. Deadpool and Wolverine stars Ryan Reynolds and Hugh Jackman, along with director Sean Levy, have received their membership cards to the $1 billion box office club. Marvel Studios and Disney's summer blockbuster achieved the feat on Saturday, and will finish the weekend with an estimated $1.029 billion in global ticket sales, including $494 million domestically and $535 million internationally. The audacious third outing in the Deadpool series that began its life at 20th Century Fox is a huge win for franchise mastermind Ryan Reynolds, as well as for Marvel Studios and the superhero genre in general. It's the first superhero movie to cross the $1 billion mark since Sony and Marvel's Spider-Man No Way Home 2.5 years ago, and the first Marvel Disney MCU pick to cross the $1 billion threshold since Avengers Endgame in 2019. Also, Deadpool and Wolverine is just days away from passing up Warner Brothers and Todd Phillips' Joker that did $1.079 billion and becoming the top grossing R-rated film of all time at the global box office, not adjusted for inflation. It now ranks number 2 after passing up Oppenheimer. In North America, it already holds the R-rated record. Moreover, it tied with The Avengers to become the 4th fastest MCU title to speed past $1 billion in 19 days. Avengers Endgame tops the list, doing it in 5 days, followed by Avengers Infinity War in 11 days and Spider-Man No Way Home in 12 days. Deadpool and Wolverine is the 55th movie to clear the $1 billion mark, the 31st Disney title to do it, and that includes 3 20th Century Fox films inherited in a larger Disney-Fox merger, and the 11th MCU movie, including 2 Sony Spider-Man films, Homecoming and No Way Home. It's also the 2nd film of the year so far to join the $1 billion club after sister Disney Pixar film Inside Out 2, which now tops the chart of the top grossing animated film of all time with nearly $1.6 billion in global ticket sales. Disney is the only studio to ever deliver back-to-back $1 billion films in any given year. Deadpool and Wolverine has smashed one record after another since debuting over the July 26th to July 28th weekend, including quickly passing up the entire lifetime runs of the first 2 Deadpool films, both domestically and globally, after just 2 weekends in theaters. Deadpool's domestic earnings were $363 million for a global total of $782 million worldwide. The second film's domestic haul was $318 million for a worldwide total of $734 million. As far as how high it can ultimately climb, most are predicting that the pick will land between $1.2 billion and $1.3 billion, giving credence to Reynolds' theory and that he and the filmmaker succeeded in making the first 4-quadrant R-rated film. What's a 4-quadrant R-rated film? Glad you asked. Ryan Reynolds on stunning Deadpool and Wolverine box office. I think it's the first 4-quadrant R-rated film. The mastermind behind the Deadpool franchise spoke with The Hollywood Reporter about the movie's record-shattering $211 million domestic debut and worldwide launch of $444 million. Ryan Reynolds has his own theory about the success of Deadpool and Wolverine. Quote, Disney probably doesn't want me to frame it this way, but I've always thought of Deadpool and Wolverine as the first 4-quadrant R-rated film. And here's what that is. Ryan Reynolds continues, quote, "Yes, it's rated R, but we set out to make a movie with enough laughs, action, and heart to appeal to everyone, whether you're a comic book movie fan or not. There's a reason why Disney and others may bristle at labeling it a 4-quadrant film, which generally is reserved for movies that work equally for males and females over and under 25. After all, it's perhaps the most violent and bloody Deadpool yet. Still, there is evidence to back up Reynolds' theory that it's playing to a broader audience than the usual MCU movie, even if it's skewing male by anywhere from 60 to 63%. So far, 13.6 million people have bought tickets to see it. And that number is higher by now. That number, 13.6 million, is on par with last year's Barbie, which was rated PG-13, according to Steve Buck's leading research firm, Ent Intelligence. More tellingly, 11% of the audience was under 17. R-rated films typically only have 5% of audience under the age of 17. Deadpool and Wolverine showed strength across all age groups, again to Reynolds' point, and not just the 18 to 34 crowd, which can make up as much as 60 to 70% of a superhero film's opening weekend. Hollywood actually went out of its way to let Ryan Reynolds help them make a movie people actually wanted to see. And of course it made money. People are happy to go to the movies. People are happy to buy things and spend money on things as long as it's what they want. And they feel like what they're getting is worth more than the money that they're spending. And they feel like what they're getting is worth more than the money that they're spending. That's the marketing expertise lesson that Hollywood should have learned years ago. Paramount's going to have to do something. They're getting bought. And the thing with Paramount is the company that's buying them is controlled by someone whose father is a super multi-billionaire. So dad can always step in and help out his son. And Wall Street knows this. Hollywood knows this. And that's kind of why this is all coming together. From Deadline, Paramount takes $6 billion write-down at cable networks. Paramount Global has taken a massive hit to earnings, booking a nearly $6 billion write-down, and that is a loss, a day after Warner Brothers reported an even bigger loss. Both impairment charges or losses to bring their carrying value for their linear television assets into line with what they're actually worth now, much less given years of declines and an uncertain future. Warner Brothers' loss of $9.12 billion was triggered by the loss of the NBA rights. The timing for Paramount is related to getting its book in order ahead of its acquisition by Skydance. The agreement announced last month will move forward as of 11:59 p.m. Eastern Time, August 21st, if no better offer emerges. And no one's really expecting a better offer is going to come through at this point. Paramount's impairment charged its $6 billion loss, widened its operating loss to $5.3 billion from $250 million in the 2023 second quarter. Quote, during the second quarter of 2024, we recorded a goodwill impairment charge for our cable network's reporting unit of $5.98 billion, the earnings release said in a small footnote. You would think that would be a big footnote because it's $6 billion lost. Now, over at Warner Brothers Discovery, they had an even worse week. They took a massive $9.1 billion loss due to losing the rights to the NBA games. They weren't expecting that to happen. But it actually was worse for them. They took an additional $2.1 billion in losses related to their merger between Warner Brothers and the Discovery networks. So altogether, the company took an $11.2 billion loss in just their last 90-day period of operating. Additionally, Warner Brothers reversed earlier profit trends in its streaming business despite adding nearly 4 million subscribers in the quarter, while its linear TV business continued to deteriorate. And now Warner Brothers is supposedly looking to sell a piece of their video game business. Coming from thatpartplace.com, Warner Brothers Discovery looking to sell a stake in its video game business. Now, when you have a company and you have a number of different divisions, if you can sell a portion of that division, if it's even a hot division, that could be a good thing because it can create a market value for that division. So if they sold 5% or 15%, if people were interested in being in that industry, which a lot of people are, it is a way that they can generate some extra value that's not currently being valued by the stock market. One of the people who support the management team of Warner Brothers Discovery is John Malone, a self-made multi-billionaire who made his billions in making deals in cable and in the cable industry. This sounds like the kind of idea John Malone would come up with. Which means with his support and the way he knows how to structure business deals, there's a book on him called Cable Cowboys, which is actually an excellent book. But John Malone knows how to make deals. This sounds like a John Malone deal to me. I hope it goes through because these guys really do need to find a way to find value that can be somehow unlocked, somehow freed up, so they can demonstrate that the company is worth a lot more money than it seems like it's worth. Because with the debt that these guys still have and the price that they paid to buy Warner Brothers, it's really a mess over there. And while the multi-billion-dollar media companies struggle to adjust to the new world of streaming and artificial intelligence and everything else that's coming, they're going to have to focus on making things that customers actually want to buy. And it's starting to happen. They're moving in that direction. Keep pushing back. Keep speaking up on social media. Don't support things that you don't like. Make these companies earn your money. Don't support them unless what they have to offer is worth more to you than the money in your pocket. The companies in Hollywood that change will survive. The ones that don't will ultimately fall apart. Let me know what you think of all this in the comments below. Always love to see your ideas. Please be sure you are subscribed to the channel. Click the bell for notifications, give me a thumbs up, and I'll see you again soon with another story. And if I don't see you, I will miss you.